Hi, my name's Tim. I'm a recovery coach. One of the things that I talk about, or at least I try to get people that I coach work with, is what I call Life 101. It's basic life skills. And one of the things that'd be interesting that we talk about all the time, and a lot of people are kind of find it unusual that we talk about it, but that's breathing. Breathing, I think, is one of the most primary basic needs of the human being, of course, but it's also the first thing that we use as an addiction. And what I mean by that is that when you're very, very little, maybe small, maybe 2, 3, 4, 5 months old, somehow, some way you hold your breath. You have an instinct to know if you hold your breath. But if you hold your breath, or technically minimize or deprive oxygen from your brain goes into kind of a survival mode. It kind of shuts down or protects non-vital things so that the oxygen that's available goes to the vital things. So it's one of the things that's non-vital is your feelings. So the first way that a human being uses to control their feelings to make sure they don't feel bad is by holding their breath. I actually used this to a somewhat of an advantage when I played sports. I happened to play football, and football, the position I had was a middle linebacker, and my job was primarily to stop a large fullback from gaining those 1 or 2 or 3 yards that they needed. So it was kind of mano to mano, and I had to be prepared. And I know right before the play is that I would hyperventilate myself, meaning put as much oxygen in my body as I could, but I would then hold my breath. I would hold my breath because I knew that this collision was going to hurt. And in order for me to have the courage to do it, or the courage to run hard, or to try to tackle hard, somehow holding my breath helped. And what it really did is that it kind of artificially held down my feelings. And that was one of the things I do. But what is spiritual breathing? How do you breathe properly? First of all, one of the most important things, of course, is posture. The way I like to say is that you like stand up against the wall and put your shoulder blades back, kind of open up your chest. Open up and let the lungs and your diaphragm have as much attention as you can. When you're slumped over and you're kind of closing your chest down, it minimizes your breathing, even to the extent of what we call puffing. And that is what people do to try to make themselves feel better. So the spiritual breathing is to open your chest back, start off by using a flat wall, put your back against the wall and kind of open up your chest. The other thing I like to do is have you breathe in through your nose. Breathe in as much as you can. I want you to overventilate your lungs. Breathe in as much as you think your lungs can hold, and then breathe in a little bit more. I like to have you just hold that as much air as you can in your lungs. Hold it for maybe 1 or 2 or 3 seconds, and then when you let it out, you let it out through your mouth. The visualization I like to use with that is that the power, the good energy, the universal energy goes in through your nose, and all the pain and the dark side and the negative energy goes out through your mouth. So in through your nose, hold it, out through your mouth. And then I like to have you hold the out. Actually empty your lungs. When you think you've breathed out all of the air you need, breathe out more. Kind of go a little bit further, and then hold your breath in. Hold it with that air out for just a few seconds before you take in the next breath. Do that about 3 or 4 or 5 times, and you will get the oxygen in your brain, or oxygen in your system that goes to your brain. I think what they say, 65% of the oxygen is used by your brain. That's why when you minimize your breathing, your brain kind of goes into a survival mode. But that's what I call spiritual breathing. It's very important. We send nudges out with our text messaging to remind people during the day to pause, take 5 or 6 spiritual breaths, and then I ask them to also think of 3 or 4 or 5 things they're grateful for, and then turn that text back to me and tell me what those things are grateful for. That little pause during the day, that spiritual breathing during the day, and that little gratitude list during the day will do wonders for you. You might give it a try.